Lindsay cradled the weight of her unborn child, the last living, breathing reminder of her dead husband, and ran as fast as she dared. At 8 months pregnant, panicked flight wasn't safe, but she was out of options. They'd found her. Again. She had to get away. She had to hide. She had to survive. Lindsay risked injury and precious seconds to assess the progress of her pursuers. Shit. They stalked her like a pride of lions on the hunt. And just like the hungry felines, if they caught her, they would kill her. Stephen's father wanted only the baby. Lindsay was of no use to him. Expendable. Her compressed lungs labored, the spasm in her side making every breath torture. Her expectant body just wasn't capable of this kind of exertion. She'd never outrun them like this. She needed help. An image flashed into her mind like a beacon. Mossy green eyes, hair black as midnight, and a face which would rival that of any cover model. No, she couldn't involve him. Wouldn't involve him. She saw an alleyway up ahead where people ate, drank, and laughed while they took a break from shopping the busier part of town. Could she get lost in the crowds? She'd tried keeping to less populated areas, but she hadn't been able to ditch the men following her. Taking a chance, Lindsay ducked into the alley, deliberately slowing her pace as she threaded her way through to the other end. She emerged from between the buildings and into the flow of tourists visiting downtown Charlevoix. Another quick backwards glance told her she'd finally gained some ground. Her trackers had fallen behind, helpless to navigate through the people-packed lane. The seas that had parted so easily for her had closed back in, hindering their pursuit. Lindsay turned left, towards the drawbridge and the hiding places she'd scouted when she'd first arrived in town. She'd taken no more than 3 steps towards safety when her feet came to a skidding halt. There, a few blocks away, stood the very man who had just occupied her thoughts. Was it a sign? Was a greater power guiding her to overcome her fear, leading her towards salvation? If what she'd heard about him were true, he may be her and her baby's only chance of survival. Still, Lindsay almost dismissed the idea. She couldn't risk someone getting hurt because of her. She'd already lost too much. But there he stood, just when she needed someone most. Would he help her? She started forward again, but was blocked by a stream of elderly tourists as they exited a cafe. They slowly made their way to a tour bus parked at the curb. Lindsay's mind raced. If she waited for them to pass, her stalkers would surely find her. If she barreled through the crowd, it would cause a scene and draw their attention to her anyway. Left with only one choice, she darted into the middle of the group. She pulled in her petite frame in an effort to appear inconspicuous and moved along with the group onto the waiting vehicle. She took a seat near the front and ducked down. The lions, finally free of the horde, stopped and scanned in all directions. A short conversation followed before one took off to the right, while another crossed the street. The last predator turned the same way she had come, and searched the crowd as he neared her hiding place. Lindsay sank farther down into her seat, hoping he didn't decide to search the bus. She held her breath as he passed within 10 feet of her. When he was well out of sight, she drew in a deep breath and sat up. "I don't think you're supposed to be here, my dear," an elderly gentleman told her. "What?" Lindsay looked around, as if she'd just noticed her surroundings for the first time. "Oh my gosh, you're right. I'm so sorry," she added with an embarrassed smile. "Pregnancy brain." She stood and made her way to the door, sure to keep an eye out in case one of the lions circled back. Lindsay cautiously exited and headed in the direction she'd last seen the man she hoped would be her savior. The man, if she were right, was an honest-to-God witch.